For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest.
I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating today? For some of you, it could be that this is National Adopt a Rescued Guinea Pig Month. Believe it or not, it truly is. It's also National Backyard Day. Not a great day here in New York to be in your backyard, although yesterday was. It was just such a gorgeous day here in New York, but today isn't. But today I am celebrating a dear friend, someone that I haven't seen in quite some time because of COVID. And he is making a return to cabaret, something that he has not been able to do because of COVID. And there have been several jumps and starts because of COVID over the last 2 years, I guess we can say. Parker Nolen and I got to know each other a little over 2, maybe 3 years ago when Parker reached out to me when he was doing his show, Not Exactly Paris, which we're going to talk about, and asked if I would come on board and handle his PR, which I was happy to do. And I was lucky enough to catch his show just outside of Baltimore. Was it that I caught your show? Incredible show. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs about the ups and downs of dating, something that I know a little bit about. Long before I got married, something that I know a lot of you can probably relate to. And we're going to talk about those things today. And we're also going to bring on in a few moments his very special guest, who is also our special guest today, who I am meeting for the first time. And I'm very excited about that. I also want to let you know that we are going to be giving a special giveaway today. Well, there are actually a couple of ways that you can get a giveaway today. Number one, if you put in the hashtag environment, and there's a reason, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, you will be able to get Barbara's special CD from Paris to Porter. And we're going to talk about Paris and Cole Porter, who, when I think of Paris, I do think of Cole Porter and vice versa. And we'll talk about how those things go hand in hand. But if everyone who's watching, I've discovered that the best way to enter in this contest is to be watching through YouTube. Because sometimes because of the way that Facebook is set up, if you are commenting through Facebook and your privacy settings are put on private, I will never see your hashtags. So that becomes an issue if you're trying to win a CD. Also, if you go and see the show, which we're going to talk about also in the show, you will be able to, everybody who attends, am I correct? Everybody who attends has a chance to win a copy of Dating for Dummies.
Yep.
Something that I think you know a little bit about as well. So before we start, because this is the name of the game here, who or what are you celebrating today besides the obvious things that we've already talked about? And welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Richard. It's really nice to be here, and thank you for the kind words. I am celebrating the people who helped me get started in this field. Linda Kosut specifically today. Wonderful, wonderful woman. And Roberta Drake. That's who I would be celebrating today. Today, it's very odd. Today, on my Facebook feed, I got a notification that it was 3 years ago, exactly today, that I sent out the first notification about this show.
Wow.
And then it's like, wow, everything's kind of coming full circle again. But anyway, that's who I would be celebrating.
Great. Well, I always like to start with a random question. And it's interesting because I'm sure you've been on, as you talk about in your show, some awkward dates. So think of this as an awkward date. And here we are meeting for the first time. And I'm going to ask you a random question. This is a question that I haven't even looked at. So God only knows what I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
But this is not a crazy question because I think this is a very good question. Speaking of, well, not exactly Cole Porter, but Rodgers and Hart. If you could write a book, what would it be about?
Oh, well, if I could write a book, what would it be about? Wow, that's a very broad topic, isn't it? I mean, I think probably how to find yourself and how to be authentic in what you do. I think that's critical to a sense of plugging into yourself and getting that good energy going. I lived in California, can you tell? But just that finding ways to be authentic with yourself and with other people. And sometimes that's not an easy thing, and sometimes it's a hard thing, and sometimes it's a funny thing, right?
Now, your authentic self, if we really want to go with your authentic self, you were born in Indianapolis, am I correct?
Right.
Is that where you're originally from? I asked for a photograph of you at 5 years old, which I'm going to share. There's a reason for this. And there you are. And as you can see, he hasn't changed a bit, folks. He looks exactly the same. And the reason I asked for the 5-year-old self is because to me, that is the authentic self. That's the time before life begins to tell you who you should be or who you should not be. And that includes teachers, aunts, uncles, everybody in your life. Tell us a little bit about this 5-year-old boy growing up in Indianapolis and who he was before life started telling him who he should be.
Well, he was very joyous and had a lot of optimism. Felt that there wasn't anything that he couldn't do, right? There was a smile that this 5-year-old boy had that was just amazing. And it was just an amazing childhood growing up. My father was an airline pilot and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So we kind of grew up in a very Brady Bunch-like environment where outward looks were important and what happens behind closed doors and what happens inside is very secret. And there's that old saying, we're only as sick as our secrets. And that 5-year-old boy had not yet learned how to keep secrets. So there you go. It's kind of.
I mean, if you don't mind my going there, were there secrets happening at home that you were telling the world?
Yeah, it was a pretty rough childhood in some regards. There was a lot of trauma in childhood growing up. But it's one of those things that shapes you into who you are. Once you can kind of recognize the trauma and work through that, you come out the other side in a very different person, right? And also that 5-year-old boy was keeping a big secret. He was gay, right? So I grew up in a Baptist Pentecostal household. So it was great watching your interview with Del Shores, by the way. It was just kind of like, oh yeah.
If anyone doesn't know who Del Shores is, go and watch the interview. And I was lucky enough to interview him on his birthday, which made it even more special.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
But so that, there was just a lot of pressure to conform, a lot of pressure to not be who you are, and just present yourself differently than your authentic self. And that 5-year-old boy yet had not succumbed to those constraints.
So first exposed, how extreme, if you don't mind my using that word, was your level of, for lack of a better word, Pentecostal in your home? Because I know growing up in the South, my grandmother was Pentecostal, and they were not allowed to listen to any music that was not church music. So was that your upbringing as well? When did you first become aware of music that was not from a hymnal, for example?
Oh, well, that probably would have been Mrs. Vaughn, my grade school music teacher. When we had to learn how to play the recorder. I had a little white plastic recorder with a red mouthpiece and a red trumpet flare. Really
I'm going to tell you something that you may not believe me when I tell you this. And it's funny that you say this because today is National Recorder Day. I don't make these things up, folks. I do my research.
So that would be where I first learned of music beyond church music. And Mrs. Vaughn, an amazing woman. I remember her clearly. She had a huge blonde beehive hairdo, and she was just very nurturing to the kids who were different, right? We got to sing the Coca-Cola song that was very popular in the 70s. I'd like to teach the world to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, that's when I really keyed into music. Now, I didn't key into singing really well until I was in high school. I was a band geek and was in the marching band and the whole ball of wax. And short story long, how I really keyed into my vocal abilities was my best friends and I were going to go see The Empire Strikes Back, which was playing on the other side of town. And they're like, all right, we'll pick you up, but we need to audition for a choir first. Do you mind coming with us? I'm like, no, that's fine. So I went with them to the audition. They auditioned, and Mrs. Geraldine Miller, bless her heart, said, who's that over there in the corner? And they're like, oh, that's our friend. He's just coming with us. Well, I want to hear him sing. And I sang for her, and I got into the choir. My friends didn't, but I did, which caused a bit of tension, but and that's how
right out of a chorus line. That happens every time.
Yeah, it was like, wow. And so that's my story of music and how I kind of evolved into music. And I wanted to be a music teacher, surprisingly, because I felt that if I could get a young person to key into what they were good at, like Mrs. Miller did for me, that the young people would make different choices and maybe go a different direction in life. Life had other plans for me, though. I mean, I ended up doing something in a day job, which was very different. But music is very vital to me. Now, to answer your question about how extreme was the Pentecostal environment in my house, it was pretty extreme. I mean, we would have speaking of tongues regularly in our house, which was very different. And I never really understood that whole translation part. Mm-hmm. But again, that's a conversation probably for another time.
Well, because I don't want to keep her waiting in the wings too long, mm-hmm. I want to bring Barbara on. But before I bring her on, if you can give an introduction to Barbara, who is joining you on this journey. It's a great experience to be able to do a cabaret show, to put a show together. But for me, I love collaboration. I mm-hmm. love sharing a stage with other artists. And I'm sure, obviously, you do too. Otherwise, you'd be doing a solo show. What is it about Barbara? She's not listening right now. What is it about Barbara that you reached out to her and asked her to join you on this journey? Because I did see the show before, and it was a solo show mm-hmm. before. You changed the show a little bit so that you've got her as part of this show. So let's start there. And while she's joining you.
Fair enough. I met Barbara actually on a date. A fellow here in the DC area said, hey, I know you like to sing. Let's go hear my friend Barbara sing. She's singing at this restaurant. She's a good jazz singer, and good jazz singer does not begin to cover. She's amazing. I sat and I listened to her and I was like, wow. And I thought, all right, how am I gonna work with her? Because I really like to hear her. I love her sound. And so we exchanged phone numbers, and I kind of went to see a couple of Barbara's shows, and I thought, well, let's see what we can do together. And we came up with an idea right before the lockdown happened to start working on a tribute to Marvin Hamlisch. Oh, and wow. We were actually coming together to do that. COVID happened, and you know what happened there. And then Barbara has been kind enough to say, Parker, will you sit in on a couple of shows here and a couple of shows there? We did a Christmas cabaret together. And the opportunity presented itself to do this show again. And I said, okay, Barbara, come on board. And that's how Barbara's here.
Well, hello, Barbara. How are you? It's great to meet you. Parker and I have worked together not on stage, but I've helped with his previous show. I want to know a little bit about your story as well. Are you originally from the DC area?
Born, but not bred. My parents were in the Foreign Service, so I lived around the world, or overseas mostly. I was raised overseas, and it was an adventure. You never knew where you were going to live next, which was wonderful, but terrifying as well. But terror is kind of good. It keeps you on your toes, I guess. So,
well, where did the music begin for you? As he said, jazz singer. And what was it about jazz that pulled you in?
Jazz came later, but I think music. I think listening to some of the old radio shows. I didn't, that I didn't have TV. We had the old radio shows that we'd listen to, that we get through some of the American bases and stuff like that. So then listening to the, Hoagie Carmichael, all those wonderful songs, really, that went through my veins and my ears and all through. So, so I sort of that's, I think, how I was inoculated as a young, through my ears, and just, just.
Now, do you have brothers and sisters, Barbara?
I do.
And are any of them musically inclined as well?
Not so much. They like it, but they didn't, no.
So I want to ask, when you're traveling the way that your family, the term, and I've always hated this term, maybe you embrace it, maybe you don't, I don't know, was military brat, traveling around the world and everything. But if you're traveling a lot like this, do you feel that how does your family instill a sense of stability when you're traveling? And what was the longest period that you were in any place? And how do you build relationships when you're traveling like this?
Well, military, quote unquote, brat is a little different because they had shorter terms. We're in the Foreign Service, you have longer postings. The plus with military postings, I hate the phrase brat.
I do too. I hate that.
There is a community. You go from base to base, and you might meet up with your friends again. You might not, or whereas the challenging, but I think truly invigorating with Foreign Service is that you're more in the community. And my parents went so far as to take me out of the DoD school to put me in a French school. So become truly part of the community and part of the school system. It was completely different and has its own challenges, but because of that, I'm fluent in French.
Oh,
and
great!
Have an ear for that, and also being in musically inclined and theatrically inclined, I have an ear for accents, and just because I picked it up as a child. You're a sponge, and I didn't realize, oh gosh, living in Hungary, that there's I could say, I could pick out in a crowd, are you a Hungarian? How did you know? Then they speak. Oh, it's like, no, that's all I know. I just know a little bit. But you're a sponge as a child. And you mentioned the 5. What are you at 5 years old? You're just a sponge, and you don't know when this is going to come back, and and help you in your later life or your artistic endeavors. We are all a mosaic, a patchwork quilt of experiences that we've gone through, and you don't know. I'm like, oh, there's this little bit over here, and you don't even know that you're using it sometimes, and that's what I find interesting. I took a workshop with my friend Scott Cedar, remarkable artist in his own, a director, and we took this workshop. He saw me in a cabaret and he says, you're using Dodi DeSanto's movement. I was like, am I? I wasn't planning on it, but it seeps into your marrow, and you use it, you know?
When was the first time that you got the opportunity to perform in front of an audience? And was that a moment that you knew instantly that you were at home?
I remember there was a Moliere play. I went to an all-girls school in Brussels, Sacré-Cœur de l'Institut, and kind of that's when I realized it was sort of tearing up the furniture. And I was like, this is fun. But I think my first memory of performing, I was sick at home. I was asthmatic and we were in Holland, in The Hague, and very, very sick. So I wasn't able to go to school, but I put the cast album of Oliver on and took all the pillows off the furniture and and I remember hopping from cushion to cushion, playing all the parts in Who Will Buy. And I have no one to play with but myself, so I will be the entire cast. And that's my earliest memory of that.
Wow. And Parker, did it begin for you in Indianapolis, or I know that you eventually moved to San Francisco, and San Francisco is a real artsy town. Did the fact that you moved to San Francisco open the floodgates for you as far as opportunities, or were those things starting to happen for you when you were in Indianapolis?
Well, they were actually starting to happen for me when I was in Indianapolis. There were, the Indianapolis Civic Theater and all the arts organizations that were there, community-wise, were a wonderful place for someone who was an only child and kind of like craved all the attention. That would be me. But when I moved to San Francisco, that was a whole different world. San Francisco was unique in the places I've been, in the sense that it was very nurturing for new artists. It supported new artists. It encouraged people to step out and take risks. There wasn't this sort of fixed pie mentality where if I help you, that means I don't get to do this. It was a very loving, wonderful place to be. And Martuni's and Skip Zoberon has a wonderful place on Market Street. And that's kind of an incubator. And that's where I got my start doing cabaret, because I've been singing classical for a long, long time. And it was kind of funny. I had mentioned Roberta Drake earlier. What happened, how I ended up doing cabaret. Growing up, I always had this vision. I grew up listening to sort of Steve and Edie, right? I mean, it was sort of like this vision in my head that's really a cool thing to do. And one night I was at a show at the Raz Room at Hotel Nico, and I was talking with Roberta, and I said, it would be really, really cool. I've always wanted to do a show. And she's like, fine. All right, you're booked October 10th. And this was in the lobby of the Hotel Nico. And I said, you've never heard me sing. And she's like, that's fine. I've got 6 months of programming that we have to figure out. We'll put you in for October 10th. Start working on a show. And the nurturing environment and the support that I got was phenomenal. And that was in 2010. And that was my first solo show. And I got to tell you, when singing classical in places like Carnegie Hall or Davies Symphony Hall is very different than in a room where you can see people and you can actually look at their expressions. It was scary, but it was a lot of fun. And that would be my big break, I guess.
Well, let me ask the two of you, and you can decide who will go first. But for me, as an entertainer, I'm first and foremost an entertainer. I've always said that I'm a lighting designer's worst nightmare, And I say this because I want to see faces. I mean, for me right now, I have a reluctance to going back to performing. God bless both of you. Because of the mask situation, I'm waiting until I want to see faces. I want to see their smiles. I want to see the entire package. I want to see the faces in the back of the theater. I, say to a lighting designer, it's not about putting special effects on me. I want to see the people in the audience. It's never bothered me to see faces. Does it bother either of you to be able to see those faces in the audience? Or do you really have, especially now in cabaret, I'm sure a lot of time has passed since that first time, Parker. Do you really embrace the fact that you get a chance to see those faces?
Absolutely. I mean, it's scary because you're vulnerable and you're making a connection with that person, right? And in cabaret, you're telling a story. You're really trying to engage in a way that you don't in a 3,000 seat auditorium, right? You're talking to this person, you're talking to that person, you're talking to the person over here, and you're hopeful for that time that they're spending with you, that they're having a good time, and that they're able to forget what's happening outside those doors, and they're just in the moment with you right there. And seeing faces is a great way to gauge that. Even with the mask, you can sort of, if someone's kind of going, you can kind of tell they're not having a good time.
I'll tell you something. In New York, we have what used to be called Manhattan Access Television. And I was doing a show once and I didn't know the camera was on me while someone was performing. And I rolled my eyes. And I didn't know until when it aired that the camera was on me, and I rolled my eyes. So now I'm very stoic when I'm in the studio or anything anymore. So, but what about you, Barbara? As far as the faces are concerned.
Womp womp. Oh
Womp,
gosh,
womp, that's right.
Yeah. Boy, yeah. They're always watching you.
That's right.
I mean, we are there now, where they're always watching you. So you just have to.
Everybody has a phone.
Exactly.
That's right.
No, and even masks or not, you do see the, you can tell when someone's smiling or someone's just like,
What is that phrase, smizing or something? Or is that smiling with the eyes?
Smizing.
Smizing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the eyes of the winter, the soul, and your gypsy eyes.
Well, I want to go back for a moment to the Marvin Hamlisch project. How far were both of you? Because Parker, you had reached out to me, and I had put you in touch with Julie Budd, who worked closely with Marvin Hamlisch. How far into the process of working on this show were the two of you when everything shut down?
We were probably a third of the way through, at least a third of the way through, I consider the process. We had the set list, we were getting arrangements, we were all set for developing or keying into our musical director, getting things done so we could do key changes and get arrangements set up, and then boom, everything kind of stopped. But the funny thing is, though, that project, Barbara and I would have weekly calls on Saturday just to kind of like check in and kind of say, hey, what do you think about this? Is that going all right? And those weekly calls have led to a really great friendship, which is really one of the best gifts of this project.
11 o'clock coffee. Yeah,
yep, exactly.
Great. I love that.
Coffee.
To me, the collaboration is the best. That's what I love about this business. I love ideas bouncing off of
it was our getting to know you moments. Exactly. And I remember making the call to you, Parker, where it's like, we're gonna have to put a hard stop on this for a while, when we, it's like, this isn't going anywhere.
We could just sort of see the signs, right? That things are starting. It's like, we need to. In fact, this show, not exactly Paris, is actually even postponed because of the spike, but everything's kind of like down and moving forward. So, Barbara, I don't think I ever told you this before. Do you remember that very first meeting we had at the Greek restaurant in
Zorbas on DuPont Circle.
DuPont Circle, right.
Shout out.
Yep.
Shout out to small businesses.
Yes, I love DuPont Circle.
Mm-hmm. When I called you and set up the meeting, I was absolutely terrified. I'm like, she's not going to do the project. She's not going to want to do the project. Oh my God, what if she says no? And here we are.
Oh,
Good.
wow.
Well, God bless you. Barbara, not knowing a lot about your history, have you done a lot of cabaret? I know that you do a lot of jazz work, but the structure of cabaret is, when I think of jazz, I think of a much more free form type of an evening. Have you done a more structured type of an evening in terms of a structured show?
Yes, actually, I'm a latecomer to jazz. As a matter of fact, I come to both through theater, and I'm a theater artist first and foremost, and then I did my first cabaret actually through this French theater company I was a member of, and Le Néant Theater, and have this. My CD came out of my Cole Porter cabaret, and with Amy Conley, my musical director for that, and we've curated several cabarets for the Harmon Shakespeare Theater Company, their Harmon happenings. That we're doing such and such, and we would propose a cabaret that was specific for that production. So we have a band books, for band books day, we have naughty list. What's the book you shouldn't be reading? So yeah. So I've done several.
You did that great summer cabaret at the Arts Club.
Pardon me?
You did that great summer cabaret at the Arts Club.
Yeah. No, it's
years ago. I mean, I don't know. But there was a time, I mean, I did a lot of cabaret. I used to travel to Washington to do cabaret. I did cabaret at the National Theater. I performed at the Signature Theater. There was a lot of opportunities for me. Is there a lot of opportunities now in the DC area for cabaret?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's Signature puts up phenomenal cabarets all the time. The Roundhouse Theater has all the major theaters, Olney Theater. They've cabarets becoming more of a thing than than it was. As an independent artist, it's like, oh gosh, finding venues coming out of the pandemic is always a challenge. And I'm excited to, we can plug Crazy Aunt Helen's now, right, because they have a.
Let's talk about Crazy Aunt.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yes, thank you for getting us there.
I'm here. Yep, that's plug.
I want to talk because a lot of people may not realize the world of an independent artist, especially in the world of cabaret. I want to talk about the pluses and minuses that both of you face. And let's talk about the pluses and minuses that both of you face pre-pandemic, what you've gone through in the past 2 years, and where you are now, and where you see the two of you headed. And that's a loaded question for both of you, I know.
Oh boy. Okay. So who wants to go first? Barbara, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Oh, great. Thanks. Okay. So
your show.
It's our show. Pluses and minuses before the pandemic as an independent artist. Some of the pluses are, you're not tied into a specific group of people. You're not tied into a specific company per se. You actually have the ability to be creative and think about, all right, I want to do this, 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 and this. One of the things I really like about cabaret, and I know this is an old chestnut in the cabaret field, is that I can always cast myself and I can't get rejected, right? But another plus is you get to connect with the music director that vibes with you the best, right? That can really help you do the best show possible. And if you are lucky, you make connections with venues that let you come back. And that's what happened pre-pandemic. There was a wonderful venue in Baltimore, Girano's, which is not here anymore. They were also a wonderful place to nurture artists and say, all right, yeah, this was a great show. We want you to come back and do another one. The pandemic really sort of weeded out a lot of venues that were available to us as independent artists. Post-pandemic, I would say the pluses are kind of the same, but the minuses are that the venues aren't as plentiful, which brings us to Crazy Aunt Helen's, a brand new venue here in DC, which is fantastic, by the way. And I would think that another plus for me is having the ability to be fluid with material and fluid with musical directors. The musical director for this show is Howard Breitbart. And Howard I know, right? Howard was a member of Capitol Steps, musical director for Capitol Steps.
Oh, wow.
He's going to do some amazing stuff for our show. I'm very excited about that. In fact, we're probably going to do another show in the summer, but that's another conversation. That would be my take on the pluses and minuses. I think, well, and also a minus would be finding, again, that cohesive, empowering community, right? Because it's very hard to find places that want to nurture and support in a positive way that grows the artist's capability. There are lots of different social clubs here in DC, which and open mics, but it's very, okay, we're just going to kind of keep this together, right? And it can be a challenging environment in that regard. But the nice thing is the cabaret scene in DC is really gearing up. Talk about March 2023 coming up soon, but that's all I got.
I echo a lot of what you said, and it's also being a little more creative of finding venues and putting out, hey, we could do a salon, we can do a person's party, and that was in the past. It's also audiences are still kind of nervous coming back, and I hope they feel safe, and things are looking brighter. And there's competition with so much that is out there that guys, come to ours because we can have a good, and you can see theirs too, but we're only one night, so if they're playing 3 nights, come to ours, and we can share.
Absolutely. So talk about the show, Parker. Tell us about venue. Your all the information is going to be on the YouTube channel, so everyone who wants to get there. And I know that a couple of people who are watching are not that far from the DC area. I know some of the names that I'm watching, so I hope you'll get there. Anne, have your photograph taken and posted on my pages with Parker and Barbara, if you'll take your picture with them. Will you? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
You mentioned earlier, last night I watched Not the Boy Next Door, the Peter Allen Australian movie, which Not the Boy Next Door or The Boy from Oz was based on this movie. And it showed early in Peter Allen's career and how he had to struggle, especially with him being so openly gay, and how they were trying to change him, and his manager was telling him to be less fruity on stage, and all these things that he was dealing with, and how he opened at Radio City Music Hall and was a big hit, and how even then, they were trying to change him. And, and it's this constant business of everyone trying to get you to change until you're a success. And then everybody else wants to emulate what you're doing. So, it's a constant proving yourself in this business.
Well, kind of.
Yes, but are you at a point where you are just enjoying doing the work?
Yeah, exactly. I in terms of changing myself, right? I mean, we talked a little earlier about that 5-year-old boy who hadn't yet learned the secret, or hadn't yet learned to keep secrets. And I do this for a couple of reasons. I mean, primarily, I want people to have a good time, because I want people to come see a show that's kind of funny, kind of sad, but relate to the universality of what we go through as people, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all the same, right? We're all walking one another home. And secondly, I do this for a huge, it's for me, it's like that song from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Here I Am, right? I was fortunate in that I grew up in San Francisco in my 20s and early 30s. And that was in the 80s. And it was a whole different world, and learning how to embrace yourself and claim your wholeness in the world, which is, it's odd that we're fighting the same
falling
struggles.
apart, I might add.
Oh, exactly. There is no question about it. It was a very hard time to be there. I mean, but it was also a very empowering time. So, yeah, that was, I kind of went onto the weeds. Sorry about that. But
no, I'm glad you
We're
went.
getting to know you. I mean, that's the tangents are wonderful, They just really are great.
Yeah.
But get back to your point. Okay.
Okay, yeah, back to the point. So the show, you want to know about the show. Okay. So, when this show was originally conceived, you saw the original iteration in 2019.
Which I loved.
Oh, thank you very much. I am so grateful you came to see it. It's about dating. It's about what the kind of stuff that you go through as when you're dating. And I am very happy. I'm very happy to say the show has been reworked, because life is different now than it was when you saw the show. And it's not a cookie cutter revival. I mean, I look at this show as kind of a living show, in the sense that it's going to evolve over time. So, 3 or 4 years from now, I may pull it out again and do something different with it. But it's really about the human experience in relating to other people. And
excuse me for interrupting, but have you had any other opportunities to perform this show since I last saw it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I did in 2019, again, right before the pandemic hit. We had gone to Davenport's in Chicago. We had gone to Theater on the Square in Indianapolis, and we were getting ready to go to a couple places in New York, and then everything just kind of went thud. So yeah, I kind of joke that we had, and we're getting ready to go to Pittsburgh too, but but I kind of joke that we had a multi-city Midwest tour.
Circle the wagons.
There we go.
So I want to ask you, first of all, Parker, because this is your baby. You gave birth to this show. How has this show impacted you from its conception to where you are right now?
Oh, that's one of those thoughtful questions. The show impacted me in a lot of different ways. Primarily, relationships don't happen in a vacuum, right? And it required a lot of self-reflection and a lot of acknowledgement about my own stuff, and how are my behavior patterns and character traits impacting what's happening around me, which I think is an amazing gift to be able to do, to say, oh, that's really not a good thing to do, Parker. You need not to do that anymore. And it allowed me to be creative. I mean, there is something about that creative spark and that creative energy that is truly, for me, life-giving and energizing in ways that it's hard to articulate, right? Of course, this same 5-year-old that you saw was doing an Elvis Presley impersonation on the steps of my grandmother's front porch, but
Oh, good for you. And I hope he still is. And Barbara, what about you? I mean, working on this show, are there things or memories that are, coming back from your awkward dating moments as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything you want to share?
Well, we had some, I don't know if it's necessarily, just like, it's not you, but he's not for you.
Right.
He's not for you, yeah. And like, I couldn't see it. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to go through the fire to get there.
Yeah.
So, what we're going to do is we're going to give away your CD. And I want to get my own CD from you. But
it's on its way. Just
autographed. So the word today is environment. And as I said before, the best way to do this is to switch over to YouTube and comment there, because if your privacy settings are set up, Facebook has really screwed this up. If you comment through Facebook and your privacy settings are set on private, I will not see it. So this is my homage to Inside the Actors Studio. And I'm going to ask each of you, James Lipton, this is in your honor. And I'm going to start with you, Parker. I've got some random questions that I'm going to throw at each of you. So Parker, outside of this business, what activities give you purpose?
I would say community. We're engaging with community gives me purpose.
Okay.
And engagement can come in a lot of ways. It can come in a faith community. It can come in a work community. But community gives me purpose.
Okay. And Barbara, if you could model your life after anyone, living or dead, who would it be and why?
If I could model my life.
You got the easy question.
There's so many. I mean, gosh. Oh my gosh, James Lipton.
No, you can't say James Lipton.
No, I know. I'm looking for the blue cards. No, it's hard when you're in the hot seat. I actors or mentors that pay it forward, that give you a chance, just kindness. Okay. That give you a moment to shine without. Okay. Well, trying to who okay, my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Shirk, when I was in Paris, when we were at the American School of Paris, he opened my eyes to history, and encouraged the class to reinterpret historical dramas, and he's just really opened up. Teachers are remarkable, and because of him, I went into working as being a teaching artist at Wolf Trap, working with 3 to 5-year-olds. So I mean, I just everyone can be a teacher, and they don't have to have a certificate. They just have to take the time, and young and old, and just having patience with people. I think that's just so important. And I don't think people take the time to have patience. So just be patient with yourself and be patient with others.
Wow, that's great. What a great answer. I love that. Parker, what was the best gift that you ever gave to someone in this business?
That's a hard question to answer. I think sometimes I was very fortunate to be able to introduce somebody to somebody and do a little networking for them that let them sort of blossom in a different direction and take a different path. And that was probably the best gift I've been able to give someone, is to be able to connect people in this particular person in a way that allowed them to grow in a way they wanted to. That's always a hard question, right? Because it's like, in a sense, it almost sounds egotistical. What have I done? And it's not what I'm trying to say at all. But in this business, I think connecting with people who are nurturing and who can say, yes, you've got this, 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 and this, is great. Flip side, I'm going to tell you the best gift I ever got in this business was actually from Karen Mason. I did.
I love her. I love her.
She's
great.
Right?
I'm seeing her on the 28th. I love her.
Yes. Darn it. Lucky you.
Yes.
I did a master class with her, and her comment was, well, thanks for the bravery. And it's like, okay, got it. So sometimes the gifts can be candidness, but for me, what I've been able to give is networking. So I think
That's
I'll leave
wonderful.
it at that.
God bless her. And God bless you, Karen. I love you.
Me too.
Barbara,
I said hi.
what do you think is the best thing about the world that we are currently living in?
The best thing. Oh, some of the new things is like technology. Look at us. We're able to have this talk and see each other. It's not like, oh, I dropped that call. This is pretty remarkable. Yeah. As you were setting up, I'm going to say, Alexa, I had to unplug it. It was like, I'm new to like this like Alexa thing, Meanwhile, everyone's like, I had to unplug it. It was like, play.
I know.
But it's also not to get too far in the weeds with it. I mean, we're doing it as a community, as you said, community. It's also scary when kids are just like down to they're going to have widow's hump, because they're like staring at their phones. You got to unplug too. But the technology that's out there is remarkable. We're able to stream this. We had during the pandemic, I did a streaming concert. I learned a lot, and like, gosh, you don't want to have something with one camera and singing for too long. You need to sense, like, he gave me the directorial. I'm like, we need 2 cameras. We need to do that. I don't have that in my piggy bank, but I know, you learn.
We'll get there.
Exactly.
Parker, what is the one thing about your work that makes you the proudest?
The one thing about my work that makes me the proudest goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and in the sense that it's authenticity. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There are a million singers who are better than I am, but I tell a story and I tell it from my heart. And I think that is the thing I'm most proud about. Plus the fact I have a great musical director that makes me sound like I can sing. So that's a good thing too.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And God bless you. Barbara, what is the hardest decision that you've ever had to make in your career?
Not admitting how at the beginning how much the arts I wanted to go into it full on, and I think I took, probably not delving in fully, admitting, get a degree, this, but as I said, I go on tangents and I got there a different way. I'm getting there a different way.
But you're there, and that's the good news.
Yeah.
One thing that I do every day is I practice gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And Parker, I think you do too. So I'd like you to list 3 things that you're grateful for today. Parker.
Okay, well, I just did this on my morning gratitude list, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk with you again, Richard. This is a wonderful hour.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for the fact that, considering all the stuff that's happening in the world, that I'm in a relatively safe and quiet place compared to some folks in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful to be able to make music.
Great. Barbara, I had the great fortune of interviewing recently Patricia Stark. She's written a great book. This is a plug for her, which I highly recommend that everyone reads this book. And it's called Confidence, CALMFIDENCEN. And she talks about her confidence team. And I want to know 4 people who were part of your confidence team, these people who build up confidence in you, who make you calm, who build you up. Who are those 4 people?
Jill Leger, a remarkable artist who writes fabulous cabaret songs of her own, and we are wonderful friends. Yeah, she just supports me. And going back to your question, like that dating, she's heard the woes, and she's like, he's not Barbara. He's not Barbara worthy. He reminds me, like, he's not Barbara worthy. I'm like, wow. So, Amy Conley is another remarkable artist and is my cohort on my CD. We've created many of antics and cabarets together, and I just, I treasure her as a friend and as a colleague, and we make each other better. I've got a good handload of friends. I don't want to like leave anyone out. So I don't think, but I do have, a network of friends that really support me, and come to my shows. And if they can't, they send other people, and just artists that support each other are just so important. And hey, you don't have to be an artist. I've got, my family, I've got my neighbors, and I've got people I don't know that come. I was like, oh, I heard you. It's like, oh, that's just such a, wonderful thing. Someone that doesn't have skin in the game to just come out and see you and comment on how much they've enjoyed their evening. It's just such a lovely surprise. Your family has to love you.
No, they don't.
They don't have to.
No.
It's great when they do.
But they
right.
they do.
That's great. So this last question is for both of you, and you can decide who will go first. And the question is, do you journal, and would you consider writing your memoirs?
Ladies first.
I haven't journaled for a while, and I've sort of, I should. And thank you for the reminder. And memoirs, I don't know who would read them, but sure, I've got some adventures and moments that I think everyone has. Yeah, sure. It would be through song, a lot of it through song and skit, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The places
I journal as well, and in terms of memoirs, yes, I would love to write them, but I'm afraid that there would have to be so much redacted that it just wouldn't be very, very fun. Right.
That's my story. I said I do journal, and I'm a big proponent of Julia Cameron, The Artist Way. I do my morning pages every morning, and her idea is that you write them for yourself, not for anyone else to read.
Right.
We're going to give away your CD, Barbara.
Oh, yay!
And I'm going to show you how this works. All I do is I hit the draw button here. Isn't this exciting? And my hands are here, so I don't pick the winner. And we're going to see.
Look at all those names.
Yes. Oh my God. And he's winning a lot. So send me a private message, and I will make sure that you will get Barbara's CD. Don't go anywhere, anyone. I want you all to stick around for a moment. I want to thank you both for being here. I wish that I could be there to see your show. It's not exactly Paris, but it's the next best thing. And Parker, I just think the world of you. And Barbara, it's great getting to know you as well. I want to thank you all for showing up. And I know, I think that I can speak for Barbara and Parker when I say this. In our profession, when you show up, we don't take it lightly. So the fact that you all on a Saturday afternoon spend an hour with all of us, we thank you. So thank you for showing up. If this was your first time at Richard Skipper Celebrates, my hope is that it will not be your last. My goal is to celebrate artists and their body of worth. So please continue to follow Parker and Barbara. Google them. Follow them on Facebook or whatever social media platforms they're on. Keep up with what they're doing. If you see that they're performing anywhere, go and see them. If they have CDs or books or anything out there, the memoirs will be coming out soon. Go out and
and we'll travel to you.
And they will travel to you. So support them. Leave a comment on YouTube. Share this with your friends. Please spread the wealth. And I would like you all to do me a favor. After today's show, go to your Facebook friends list, and the first name that pops up, reach out to that person with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. And let that person know what they mean in your life. If you don't know who that person is, they shouldn't be a friend on your Facebook friends list in the first place. So reach out with a phone call and let them know what they mean to you. As my dear friend Sean Moniker says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give Barbara and Parker a final word. Barbara, we'll start with you. And when you finish, say goodbye, and you will leave the screen. And then Parker, you will get the final word. And when you say goodbye, the credits will roll. It could be about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want everyone to know about anything that you want anyone to know about. It could be about the environment. But thank you both. And I send you both lots of love. Thank you. And Barbara, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Richard, for celebrating us. This is such an incredible way to spend my Saturday. And for all the friends that I don't know yet that signed on, thank you for joining us. The arts are just so important, and it's important for everyone to have a moment of it. Share it with your friends and share it with your enemies who will become your friends. Parker, thank you so much for including me in your program. And I leave you all. Join us if you can at Crazy Aunt Helen's. Follow us, Chanteuse DC on Insta. And Parker, I'll see you real soon. Mwah.
All right. Let's see. I have a black screen, so I'm not sure if I'm saying anything, but if you can see me and hear me, I hope you all have a wonderful day. And just remember, be kind to one another. Thank you all for sharing your day with us today, and hope to see you soon. Bye.